Guys, I have no doubt that this virus is a volley.
Volley virus.
Like a Transvolley.
You know why? Because you only find it at the coast in December.
So was sharp.
But I'm not even sure too many volleys go to Nelson Mandella Bay. But
Yeah. Well, yeah.
maybe they all go there.
Yeah.
Welcome, guys.
Morning, boys.
Good morning.
And girls.
And everyone.
So this is our last sort of proper episode for 2020, episode 29. Very proud of that. Next episode will be a bit of a highlight reel we'll push out, but this will be the last news-based episode of the year for us. So something we're quite proud of, and want to take this opportunity to thank my wonderful crew, Brett, Ryan. Thanks, guys. It's been awesome. Couldn't have done it without you.
Thank you, Brian.
Yeah.
All the hard work and
exactly.
and putting this together. It's been an epic journey. It really has. It's turned 2020 completely on its head for me. It's been unbelievable.
No, it's been great, and honestly, couldn't wish for a better crew, and looking forward to next year for all those things we have planned. It's going to be awesome.
Thanks, Brian. Appreciate that. I just want to say thanks as well to you for everything that you've pushed us to do this year. It's definitely been a good knockout, I think, for us, coming from where we were in the beginning of the year to achieving what we have. It's been awesome. Thanks, pal. And Brett.
You know, when I was doing some prep last night, domestic flying started here in June of this year. When you think back to those episodes when we were so happy that domestic flying started because we actually had something to talk about. Yeah. Because there was a long period there where there was no aviation at all. In South Africa, there was nothing going on. There was the odd repatriation flight that went out. There was the odd cargo flight that went out. But there was no flying. And if you look at where we are now, we've got Lift starting up, Comair back in the sky, Airlink are firing on all cylinders, so are Safair. South African aviation seems like it's in really good shape. The figures aren't fantastic. The one I read, 36% of October 2019 levels, but it's just, you can't compare. At least we got that 36%.
I think you've got to stop comparing. It's not the same anymore. Yes, we know what numbers we could do, but we're going to look at this in probably 2022, 23, a year or two time, and this is going to be a distant memory. But you can't compare those numbers. It's just not reality any longer.
Yeah, there's no point in looking back anymore. We just got to continue looking forward and continue to be optimistic about the recovery of aviation in South Africa, throughout the world.
No, I totally agree. You can't. It's a different world. But nice that we have, so many strong players in the airline field here in South Africa. It really is going to bode well for the future. Going a little bit negative, if you don't mind, guys, just to throw it in there. Airlink disappointed with the Supreme Court of Appeal's decision to dismiss their claim against SAA. That was for 510 million from ticket sales that SAA collected on Airlink's behalf. Where's the money?
Stolen.
Is it? Or are they using that to fund Mango? What? Because I still cannot understand how Mango continues to operate. And don't get me wrong, happy that Mango is operating. And I know they're wholly owned by SAA. But you look at us when we were flying for SA Express. There was money owed to SA Express from SAA. We never got that money. That money could have been used to pay salaries for a couple of months. That money never arrived. That money has disappeared.
And the truth is, you'll probably never know where that money's gone. I mean, as it is, it came out yesterday that they've now received 1.5 billion rand towards funding. Well, there's a whole debacle around that. The subsidiaries of SAA.
Effectively, they've received nothing because they can't use the money.
Yeah. And the staff are picketing outside Kempton Park. Yes, they're still waiting for their money for their VSPs. So,
oh, man.
No, it's a joke.
How does the DPE give 1.5 billion?
Isn't it DPS?
That's the one it was.
Department of Public Stealing.
But they gave away 1.5 billion, but you're not allowed to touch it. They're very clever. It's crazy. Some clause, Labour Relations Act, Companies Act issue, so you actually can't touch it until those clauses are amended.
You know what I think is funny, guys, is we're getting all these version 2s of SODs being pushed out now. I saw yesterday they want to create an SABC version 2 now as well. Why not just scrap all that nonsense and just create a DPE or DPS version 2 and get things done properly?
It seems like there's a distinct drive to open up 2 ineffective organizations doing the same thing. It's an amazing business model, I must say.
It's crazy. And, with the SAA side, obviously, this BRP nonsense is just to hide behind that veil of the BRPs. I mean...
Oh, they're taking the cream all the way. I mean, they're seeing to it that they're getting paid first out of all of this. The rescue practitioners and all that stuff.
Quite honestly, the rescue practitioners are not government officials. They're businessmen. So that is the first thing they're going to do. There's no doubt about it. Right or wrong, that's what's going to happen.
No,
and
for
it is
sure.
happening.
The BRP process seemed to work well with Comair.
It did.
Exactly.
They were relatively quiet in the media, never heard much, got the job done, and Comair is flying now, which is fantastic. That's the first BRP success story I've ever heard of. But,
Again,
anyway.
It goes without saying there was no, or probably very little government meddling in that whole process.
So the reason, Brett, that we can't use, or SAA can't use that money is because the advisors need to be paid first, then the creditors, and then the employees for work done during the business rescue period. Is that correct, or is it something totally different? Is it that money is sort of firewall to be used for something in the future? It's all very vague.
It could very well be that. I know this statement's still coming out, but there's a contravention between the Companies Act and the Labour Relations Act. So if they received $1.5 billion, probably the BRPs are going to take their funds in advance. However, I think the Labour Relations Act has to ensure that the labourers, the workers, the employees receive first. So it might be that. It's up in the air at the moment.
Is that so that they can boost their pensions, so that government can go and tap into those pension funds later on to fund
another
this
SOD?
version 2 or whatever it's going to be?
Probably. But the fact of the matter is the employees have not been paid. They have not got their VSPs. And it's a sad state of affairs. Anyway, on to something more positive. Lyft. You've got no choice now but to take your lighty on a Lyft flight, because old Riley will get 50% off. Do you see
Awesome.
that? If you book between now and the 16th of December, 50% off for kids under the age of 12.
That's magic.
Quite a nice initiative there.
Oh, might take advantage of that.
Yeah. And Airlink can be pushing their...
What's that?
What's going on here?
I think that's something you're going to have to get used to, bud. And take little precious pink Rosevere on a Lyft flight as well. Congratulations to you and Nicole.
Thank you very much.
So chuffed for you guys.
Very chuffed.
I'm still nursing the hangover from last Sunday where I had you guys over for our gender reveal party.
Yeah, we're not talking about that one.
It was so awesome to be able to have front row seats to witness you guys pop in that balloon and see the excitement in your faces and special moments, and we're so happy
special,
for you guys.
I can't wait. It's awesome cherry on the top for 2020, and can't actually believe it still. It's just, but
Gave
awesome.
birth to the Brian Air podcast, and now a little precious little girl.
Yeah.
He's been active.
Doesn't get better than that. Got busy during the lockdown. Airlink advertising business class stuff quite heavily this week, have you noticed?
Yeah.
Obviously that's because of the introduction coming in of Comair again, so they're under not threat, but they got competition on the business class side of things. They've got quite a cool thing as well, and this is what I like now with the competition in South Africa. There was an article this week with EasyJet talking about increased payments for putting baggage in the overhead compartments.
I saw that.
So they're trying to get every little bit out of you. Your seat number will basically determine how much baggage you're allowed in the overhead. Whereas you've got Airlink now, basically they're giving customers added free benefits, free check-in allowances for baggage and sporting equipment. So if you want to take your mountain bike off to go ride a trail somewhere in George area or something like that, you can go and you can put it in the hold and no extra cost. Whereas around the rest of the world, obviously limited competition right now. So yeah, it's nice to see, and I suppose that's what competition does. And you've got such serious competition with our local carriers now. You've got serious competition, and they're all now. It's not like it was before. Airlink competing with SA Express. Airlink are now properly competing with Safair, with Mango, and it's great.
It only gets better for the consumer as well. I mean, you get more choice and with a lot more benefits to choose from, which is great. I mean, the EasyJet thing is causing quite a ruckus because people are, saying, "How can you do that?" And
where do you draw the line?
Exactly, and it's going to be quite a debacle, I can imagine, in the terminal buildings when someone arrives there and they're not aware of this, and all of a sudden have to fork out extra, and in a period where times are tight, and good luck to EasyJet with that model.
I wanted to ask you guys something. Is there a requirement for an airline to have business class seats to get into certain destinations? Because an interesting one, Asman Air out of Nigeria have just taken their first delivery or the flight in their first 340-600. Okay. And they've got 38 premium and economy seats, 45 upper class seats, 225 passengers in economy, and 2 business class seats. Just 2. What is the purpose of that? They made a comment that there is a possible requirement to get into certain destinations. You have to have business class seats. I mean, but that is weird.
Yeah, that guaranteed a requirement for the government official and his wife.
Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth.
Here we go.
Historically, business class was the moneymaker for most airlines. I mean, because they obviously do well out of those premium fees. But I know for the airline that we used to operate for, particularly on flights like Lubumbashi, the government fat cats were quite insistent that there was a business class seat made available.
Throw a curtain behind row 2 and charge an extra 100% on the ticket.
Exactly.
We fly for you. Ronald Stander stepped down as the CEO of Comair.
Saw that.
Glenn Osman's taken over. Can't wish for a better guy to take over, as far as I know. He's very well respected in the industry, and I think filling some big shoes there, but no doubt he will run with it, and look forward to seeing what he brings to the table. But sorry to see Ronald Stander go, because it looked like she was making a lot of the right moves from what we could see.
Yeah, she was. She stepped in, I think, at a really
Difficult
bad time. Very, very tough to turn something around. Suddenly virus hits, all of these things. I think it was a tough one for her, but all the best to her, and wherever she's going, I'm sure she'll pop up somewhere in the aviation
real
industry.
Baptism of fire there for her.
I'd imagine that the businesses are on a drive now to just do a severe cleanup, and they're relying on the guys that made good successes in the past to come in and panel beat things back into shape. So, awesome to see Comair making good moves.
Well, AXA's helping a bit. They have eased the drop-off and pick-up rules at Tambo, at least. Entry and exit points that were previously closed are now reopened. I understand the ground level exit and entry points are for e-hailing services, Uber, stuff like that. But apparently it's a little bit easier in and out of Tambo these days.
There's an article doing the rounds that came out yesterday. I'd like to look into it a bit more, but it sounds like they're opening the terminals.
That you can actually go into the terminal now. You can actually meet people in the terminal. You can help them with their baggage and whatnot. You can even sit there and have a coffee.
Exactly. So it looks like they are opening up to that extent. And I believe that they are going to be opening up all the secondary airports for international flights as well, like Lanseria, Kruger International. Just waiting for that to sort of be made official.
Yeah, that's good news.
Yeah.
That's great news.
That's going to help the charter market.
big time.
Massively.
They need that. Yeah, for sure.
Well, sooner than later. Let's
Yeah.
hope so.
Yeah.
So international charters will be allowed to land at those secondary airports. Is that right?
That's what I understand. That's what it says in this article. I don't think it's been gazetted as such yet, but I know the charter companies are really chomping at the bit for that to be allowed, because it's going to make a big difference in their.
That is obviously the purpose of anyone that wants to charter from overseas. You don't want to fly into OR Tambo. You want to fly into a secondary airport.
Yeah.
I assume that's Kruger and Blum and
Insure and the likes of that. Yeah.
Oh, that's great news.
Obviously, the concern is with the second wave that they're talking about now. Numbers are jumping by 50%. What are they? Morocco, Tunisia, Egypt, Kenya, Uganda, Namibia, Liberia, Nigeria.
Politicians love a second wave.
They do. Second wave's great.
Let's
Great
not
for the
talk too
pockets.
much, because we'll get banned off
What, again?
Facebook
Again. We're wondering why we're not getting the views we usually do.
Anyway. Let's talk about vaccines, shall we?
Why the hell not?
US drug maker Pfizer and the small German biotech BioNTech can be used in the UK after the independent regulatory body in the UK signed off on it. This is good news, guys. It's going to be used in the UK. Vaccine done.
Well, a couple of companies are supposedly ready and waiting. Astral Aviation, Ethiopian, cold storage, ready. Millions and millions and millions. Capacity to deliver. Yeah.
American Airlines actually have been doing trial runs of moving this vaccine around, because as we've mentioned before on previous episodes, it's not just a case of putting the vaccine in the cargo hold and off you go. It's quite a rigmarole, and they're actually doing trial runs internally to see how they can get it from cold storage into the cargo hold, keep it cold, and then move it around. So it's going to be a hell of an interesting thing to see this being done, but they are practicing.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, they require the temperature to be around about minus 23 degrees Celsius.
Really?
So that is great, getting it into Ethiopia, getting it into our Tambo. Then you've got to have cold storage trucks that work and stay at that temperature. Then you're going to have a third level of distribution in smaller trucks, smaller vans that have got to be cold storage at the correct temperature. If it's off that temperature, vaccine is no longer effective. So
it's going to work well
Good
in
luck.
Africa. I mean,
Good
not only
luck.
with temperatures, but trucks are getting.
Just chuck some dry ice in there.
Yeah.
We'll see. Staying with the UK, you see what British Airways got themselves in some hot water the other day before the rugby game against Wales.
What happened there?
They tweeted, good luck to England for the rugby, and the Welshman popped up and sort of said, well, aren't you a British flag carrier, not an English flag carrier? So they were forced to apologise. Whoever was running their Twitter handle got themselves in trouble there.
So sorry.
There's a lot of talk this week about rusty pilots around the world.
Yeah, it's becoming a thing. I mean, we've seen it. Air India A320 that went or landed off an unstable approach and left themselves 600 meters to stop.
I love that one, right? Duncan Gillespie, I think, posted something on Facebook. He said it said something about the pilots actually snagged the brakes to say they were underperforming. A good save there from the captain. What can I write here? Underperforming brakes. That's why I nearly went off the end. Well, he did go off the end of the runway.
Yeah, hard to try and not incriminate yourself. But yeah, I mean, it's showing. I mean, another one, Carbo Air 747-200 landed short after the crew opted against an ILS approach. Obviously one of these, I'm speculating here, but it's like, let's just shoot a visual. Guys are a little bit rusty and things go pear-shaped. It's to be expected, and I think companies are trying to save money and they're using the excuse that their simulators are too expensive or they can't get to sim training for their pilots, taking shortcuts.
They don't even use it. The Indonesian one, Lion Air, 3:30. The excuse was during the lockdown or the pandemic, it was too difficult for them to send their pilots to simulators around the world because they don't have any of their own. And that was the end of the explanation, which, if you read a little bit further into it, obviously means that they had not been for simulator training.
Yeah, it's a bit of a concern. I see a lot of the clients from SimAero are very active in getting here. They are pushing hard, and some of the CAAs are extending the validity of their licenses, but the rest of them they're pushing really hard to get the training done. Even though Air Djibouti and MwantJet both had incidents this last week as well. Air Djibouti's landing gear collapsed on landing, just the one, and Mwant's it was a bird strike. But
at least those
both
can't
of those
be pegged down to
it's not pilot error.
Yeah.
Or so both of them seem to. Both companies, their pilots handled it, which was great to see.
Nice to see the African operators. The guys are arriving and they're putting in a lot of effort, well prepared, and they leave here even better prepared to get back into the sky.
And Brett, we've got a busy December here at SimAero.
Oh man, we thought we were going to have a quiet one, but we are running. We are jam-packed and we're going to run all the way through. Great, no complaints whatsoever. Very happy to have all our guys here.
Yeah, it's awesome. Got mechs here at the moment. They're continuing training. Epis arriving later in the month.
Dana's here. Yeah.
Great. Keep it up. Some more positive stuff from global aviation sector. You see Ryanair put in an order for 75 extra 73 Maxes. And that's the higher capacity one, the 8200 they call it. It's an extra 75 aircraft.
Yeah, I think by the end of that order they will have a total of 210 737 Maxes. It's going to be...
They're going big. I can't complain. I think they see the opportunity, they see the market, they believe in the recovery, and they're doing it. They're pushing forward, which is great to see. I want it to work for them.
And the airline industry needs that, it needs these guys, these big players to be proactive and positive and just take the bull by the horns and go for it, because otherwise, there's a lot of merger talk around as well. And this merger talk I want to talk a bit more about. Bloomberg article in Japan, a guy that was part of the growth strategy for the Prime Minister there, he's come out and he says ANA and Air Japan must merge. Says for continuous, continuity, they must merge. You need they can keep one brand. So in other words, and again, this isn't what they've said they're going to do, but this is a recommendation from this growth strategy council. Merge those two together. There's a lot of South Africans there, so I'd be interested to hear from any of those guys in Japan. Shoot us a message or a comment and let us know what's happening there, if there's any talk. Because the talk looks like keep ANA to do long-haul stuff as the premium flagship, and then Air Japan operate a low-cost domestic regional sort of setup.
Yeah, I'd also be interested to touch base with a few of my mates and find out exactly how it's working, because I've sort of been under the impression that they've been working closely together anyway.
I think it's the two brands that cost them money.
Yeah.
So to have two separate brands, you're seeing a lot of this everywhere, merging of brands. The benefit obviously is, I don't suppose anyone would lose their jobs. It's not that I don't want to get smaller, but you do lose a brand, and obviously you lose personnel along the way. But after the pandemic is finished and everything's back to normal, you've now lost one of those big brands that have been there for a long time. So there are negatives to it. Yeah, shoot us a comment there if you got any more information or the general feeling. I'm sure the guys there have a better understanding of that. But it was an interesting article in Bloomberg.
Yeah, it'd be nice to hear what's going on.
Mergers happen all the time within businesses. You got a bigger business takes over the smaller one, or vice versa. It doesn't matter, but it happens on a regular basis. You don't see it much in the aviation industry, but I think now they're going to be forced to survive. the guys are going to have to start looking at merging.
You always had the opposite, Brett. Take us here in South Africa. I mean, as it is now, you had SAA, SA Express, and Mango, all essentially owned by the same people. I know there's ins and outs, but you're all owned by by DPE, and all competing with each other. We see it in France, which we'll talk about as well. Air France and HOP sort of situation.
Yeah.
HOP is now going to be fully merged into Air France. They're only keeping their Embraers, their new Embraers. They're getting rid of their CRJs. They're getting rid of their ERJs. So it'll be a much smaller airline. So it'll shrink around 50%. We flew HOP quite often, and it was a nice airline. But the branding, Brett, totally different to Air France. There was no way of saying this airline is part of that airline.
Yeah.
Not like with us, there was always confusion here locally. SA Express, Airlink, and SAA, who's who.
Exactly.
So yeah, you're right. It wasn't popular in the airline industry, but definitely a way that these airlines are looking at for long-term survival. Merge them, reduce everything. All your ground handling costs. It's just simpler being under one banner.
Look, I get the whole example of Air France and HOP. I mean, you can't have Air France and then Air France low class. You open up something different. People like it. It's funky. It's vibrant. It's quick moving. And majority of people would have no clue that HOP is part of Air France. So, I mean, obviously that's the marketing spin attached to it. But yeah, eventually running two brands is...
And these brands are big. I mean, even HOP, which is not a massive brand globally, but, 25 CRJs, 45 ERJs, they're all averaging around 16 and a half years or so. The CRJ 1000s are still quite new. You wonder where those aircraft will go. Nice aircraft, but not going to be operated there. Some of the ERJ 145s are going on 20 years old. So, new thing for them. It'll be interesting to see. I never really understood that branding, to be honest.
I think pre-pandemic, a lot of this was all about job creation, particularly in Africa. There was, the need to create more jobs, so start up another airline or blah, blah, blah. But now it's purely about survival. So, like we've said before, it's going to be a lot more of this merger
talk.
Yep.
You see, the Delta Airline union or pilot union was under a bit of pressure this last week. Delta put a whole lot of extra Thanksgiving flights over this last couple of weeks. And there's talk that there was an organized sick out from a lot of the pilots, which the union has rubbished and said, no, that's nonsense. There's been far less sick calls in 2020 than in previous years.
Have those comments been banned?
But they were under a bit of pressure. They added quite a few extra flights, and a lot of them were cancelled. Now, and this does make sense, the Delta Pilots Union has said, listen, they've got rid of so many line check pilots, flight instructors. They do not have enough of these pilots to keep the rest of the guys current. So you're going to see this across the board. So many furloughs, so many retirements. They can't keep up with the demand. You can't just add an extra 500 flights and expect the crew to be able to do it. There's a protocol that has to be followed. You've got your sim training, but you've also got route checks and things like that, and those have to be done by qualified management pilots. And there aren't enough of them, so they're on the back foot from the start.
I think it's happening at Emirates as well. I've seen a few of my colleagues that are still lucky enough to have jobs at like Emirates. They are flying close on 100 hours a month at the moment. And
so that's half what they normally flew.
Look, they're not complaining. They said they'd rather do the 90 odd hours than 9. But it looks like the trips are taking longer and longer. They're now away for 7 days, 9 days at a time. Obviously, in an effort to try and make it more efficient and everything. But it's as they try and expand the airline and get more routes going, it's going to put them under pressure with with crew. It's going to be a problem.
You're going to see it across the board.
Yeah.
I like this typical Australian. I had a bit of a laugh. Yeah, Qantas are not operating at all. They're doing some repatriation flights. They've got 9 repatriation flights during December, January to bring home thousands of Australians from the UK, Europe and India. There's still thousands of them scattered around the world and they need to get back to Oz. But their quarantine restrictions are those inbound flights land in Darwin and they see out their quarantine in Darwin before they head off to Sydney and Melbourne and the rest. Not even the coronavirus wants to stay in Darwin.
That's why they bring it in there.
That's it.
Good on ya.
Yeah. Yeah. Found that quite interesting. And then on these long Australian flights, Qantas has told their passengers as well, there will be no in-flight entertainment at all. Bring your own book.
What has in-flight entertainment got to do with the spread of anything?
I suppose it's they need to pay a subscription to these things. I suppose, I don't know. Maybe their Netflix subscription has expired.
So are they reducing the fees?
I doubt it. These repatriation flights they're quite serious. Price-wise, they're not cheap.
Well, then they sound like with no entertainment, they're serious. You're not even allowed to be entertained on these things.
Yeah, I know.
A little bit odd.
It is a bit strange, but also the whole setup. I mean, I know South African Airways is not doing many or any repatriation flights. They can't anymore. But I assume most of the South Africans that were scattered around the world managed to get back. Seems a little bit late in the year for still be doing repatriation flights. But anyway, do you guys know what those teeth on the back of the 73 Max's engines are for? Sound,
yeah.
But interestingly, they're not on the new 777X. So apparently, it reduces the sound quite significantly, and we've already spoken about technology moving at such a rate. So even, the Max is still brand new. The 777X, they've gone away from those teeth already because there's something even better.
Yeah.
And obviously, with that sound, Brett, this is how important the sound is. They can then take out soundproofing in the cabin, which reduces the weight, which allows them to put more passengers and more cargo on the aircraft. So it's not just the case of it's nice and quiet. It's money making.
Well, that's interesting. When I said sound, I was referring to the emissions that everybody else not in the aeroplane hears. So that's very interesting, actually.
I just always thought it was cosmetic. It's like putting mag wheels on your car there, man. Make it look cool. Put some slices in the engine.
Those little ends of those engines are designed in Durban.
Yeah, all those cowlings were missing with some LED lights around the car.
It looks cool. It does look cool. But you know where the noise comes from on final approach? It's not from those engines. It's from the landing gear.
From the captain screaming at the FO.
That's only when you're flying. Well, the landing gear makes a hell of a lot of noise. So there's a lot of work going on with trying to streamline the landing gear, sort of protective cowlings and coverings, and they're making quite big strides on that. So that's more to do with people on the ground and the environmental impact. But the engine manufacturers under big stress to keep the sound down, to take soundproofing out, put more weight in the aircraft. It does make sense. Travel news, local guys. Uncle Cyril spoke last night. At least nothing too hectic.
Yeah, just don't go to PE.
Don't go to PE.
That's it.
Cape Town's still good. Joburg is still good. Children under 5 don't have to wear masks on aircraft now. And kids may be exempt from pre-departure testing. I don't know what may be exempt means. That's a bit ambiguous.
Look, good luck to you parents trying to get your child under 5 to wear a mask in the first place. I can tell you firsthand. It doesn't work. And I wouldn't even force my son to do that.
No.
Anyway.
Yeah, doesn't make sense. So,
you don't force yourself to do that.
Hey now.
Guys, can we chat about we want to encourage everyone to try and support local over this Christmas season. as best you can. You know, these big shopping chains have been open right through the lockdown. There's a lot of people that haven't been able to work, that subsequently lost jobs and are now selling little odds and ends here and there. I'm sure, and I'm not just saying the pilot community, the whole, any of your communities around it, whether pilots, cabin crew, whatever it is, they are all, there's a lot of people out there trying to do something, selling little things here and there. Do your best to try and support local. You know, if you can go and buy from someone that started a new business, then please go that route as opposed to going to Woolies or one of these places that have been operating the whole time. Nothing against Woolworths, but support local, please.
There's plenty. I've come across so many people who've just got a little something on the sideline, and they are so appreciative. I've never walked into a Woolworths, walked out and been thanked for shopping there. But let me tell you, you buy from someone who's just got a little business and you spend 1,000 Rand with them, let me tell you, it's a lifeline for them. They appreciate it like you cannot believe, and the value for money is far exceeds what you'll find anywhere else.
Not only that, but I think, you know, it gives that person who's just starting out the confidence to carry on. You know, it at least makes them realize, I can do this.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm seeing a lot of that with a lot of my colleagues and friends that are around that have been so affected by this year. The guys are starting to get out there and they're starting to do things and make it happen. And maybe things are obviously sinking in that the jobs aren't coming back anytime soon, so you got to get out there, hustle, make it work. And yeah, I'm with you on that one, Brian. Please support your local community.
Everyone's got something that's selling something. Just find out. And I actually want to open up our Facebook page to that. If you want to advertise anything, we're happy to throw it on our Facebook page, and we'll push it for you. If you're selling anything local and you want to sort of get into the market over this December, January period, please contact us. We want to support you as best we can.
Yeah. Like a shout out again to our loyal supporters, if you don't mind, Brian, but the guys like Mike Mason and his meat business that he's expanding now. Richard from RGC Wood has done well this year. Continue going.
We're going to support Mark, or he's been supporting us, but one of our sponsors for next year. So Mark, you'll be on the intro to our podcast next year because you've been a great support of ours, and he started a new business, new branding, new everything, and he's expanding. He's actually built something pretty cool. So you'll hear more about that from us early on next year when we start episode 1 for season 3. Franz Smith is a passionate, energetic guy from Pilot Insure. They've got this Steady Climb initiative that he's made us part of, which I'm very thankful for. They've gone out and they're trying to support the airline pilots that have lost their jobs. Any guys that have started businesses, they're trying to support them. They've set up not an air show, but it's a fly-in on Saturday.
Yeah.
The airfield run?
Rhino Park. Yeah, Rhino Park Airfield, just sort of north of Pretoria. Starts at 7 till about 2 o'clock. Sort of arrive by aeroplane if you've got one, or preferably by car. But it sounds like it'll be an interesting event. Lots to see. They're advertising. There'll be stalls and food and things to sell. Yeah, a big push to try and support.
I like what France is doing. You know, they're not trying to hand over money to guys, but they're trying to offer mentoring support. They've built up a network over the years, and they're using that network to try and help the guys. You know what it's like, Brett, to build up a network takes time, it takes a lot of effort. If you can skip that little period where you're building that network and go straight into it and start using people and companies that are already recommended by someone else, it can help a lot, particularly when you don't have time now to spend 6 months sitting building a network. You've got to start a business, you've got to hit the ground running.
Yeah.
So that's what they're trying to do, and very grateful to France and his team.
Tickets aren't expensive either.
No, they're selling them on Quicket,
on
150 Rand.
150 Rand, so which is really it's worth it. But it's for the bigger picture. It's supporting the pilots, it's supporting other businesses, it's sort of giving that mentorship. As Franz said, for Brian, anything we get out of it, we're going to pass on.
Yeah.
So we don't want anything out of it, and it'll be interesting. Let's have a discussion and see what we can.
We've
push
got
out.
a lot of companies that we can try and help support. We're very fortunate with where we've got to now. So any benefit that we get, we'd like to pass that on to other people.
Something else that they're doing, I see he's been advertising on Facebook and LinkedIn as well, that he's offering sort of, not so sure it's full-time employment, but opportunities to aircrew, particularly SAA or SA Space Crew. A friend of ours, Gavin Hill, is going to be joining him in the new year to sell pilot insurance, which it's good. It gives guys like Gavin an opportunity to get out there and
it's a job of which there are few around.
Exactly.
So if you're interested, then contact Franz from Pilot Insure. He is looking for guys. He's expanding.
Yeah.
Check it out, guys. It's been a pleasure. This was, as I said at the start, this is our last sort of proper episode for the year. So we're not checking out. We're going to push something out next week, but it's going to be more of a highlight reel. So from us to you, we couldn't have done it without all the support, and we never really envisaged that we would get the amount of support that we had or have gotten, the amount of downloads, the amount of subscribers, the amount of comments, but more than that, the amount of messages and phone calls and quotes of support from all of you. It's really been fantastic. It's given us a boost like you can't believe. And I just can't wait to come back next year and start version 3. But thank you.
And just adding to that, made unbelievable connections. John, Craig, all of those guys, they've literally become friends, which is just it really is great. And how it's got us through this.
Yeah.
We've looked forward to it every single week, getting in here, pushing something out.
Yeah.
And we would have carried on doing it, but it's made it a lot easier having everyone's support. So thanks, guys.
Yeah, from my side, thank you to everyone, and thank you guys as well, because it's been a great opportunity for me. I've learned a lot along the way, and I'm enjoying myself. Can't wait for...
You got a lot more learning to do, but that's okay. Season 3 will help you.
Thanks everyone.
Yeah.
We'll keep pushing stuff out over the Christmas period, and keep a lookout in mid-Jan to the end of Jan. We're going to start again. So thank you. Subscribe, Brian A Podcast. It's there. Support us. And we want to support you. Thanks for everything, and cheers for now.
Cheers, everyone.
Ciao.